Well, here we are out on our Tuscan terrace, and thank you for joining us for another session of Art and Life. I'm Beth Neville, and I love doing all kinds of artwork. So if you'll see my hands today, there is blue-gray paint, blue-gray paint, blue-gray paint on my fingernails, because I've been painting the porch steps, and I haven't had time to clean off the blue-gray paint. I'm sure in a minute we'll get a little image of that, not right now, and you can see what kind of painting I like to do. So the topic last week and this week is hydrangeas, and those of you who are vacationing down on the Cape, you really are in the most spectacular environment to see the beautiful hydrangeas against the shingle cottages with their gray shingles and white trim. Now our hydrangeas, we've been having a heat spell, and so this was pathetic, sad geranium. It was the best one I could find, and we can see by looking at it, it's starting to get discolored, and the petals of the flowers are beginning to curl a little bit. So this is the liveliest one that I could locate. Last week we worked on a watercolor of a hydrangea, and it's done in a very detailed style where each petal is articulated right down to the little tiny florets that make up the center part of this particular type of a hydrangea. I also want to show you another piece of artwork that I did some years ago. This is a rondel. A rondel is a round, and it is about 30 inches across. It was done in acrylic, and it is probably one of the best floral paintings I've ever done. Each part of the flower is articulated. This is not a very good photograph, so it looks a little blurry, but in reality it is a very detailed, very accurate, detailed arrangement. And I know that most of you, if you have hydrangeas, very frequently you will have Shasta daisies with them. So they come in bloom at the same time. The white Shasta daisies and the blue hydrangeas make a spectacular summer, August grouping of florals. So what we're going to try to do today, and this is going to be very spontaneous, is I've got my practice piece of canvas here, and what I'm going to do is try to show you how many different ways you can paint a hydrangea. All right, we're going to start with the purple hydrangea, and what I want to do is try to do 2 or 3 painting styles on the same little piece of canvas here. So this is not in any way going to be a finished painting. It's just going to be a little sample of technique. The first thing we have to do is to discover what color we would use, and just arbitrarily I brought down 2 for my studio, ultramarine blue, cerulean, my white, and I've got here magenta, and this one is garnet. So I think we're going to start with the white. We're going to put the white out first. This is my palette. Those of you who watched before know that I make my own palettes. So this tube of paint, although it seems like it's got paint in it, I just couldn't get any paint out. So I had to go upstairs to my studio to get another tube of white paint, and I got gray paint. Okay, we finally have the white paint, and we'll put out some white paint, a reasonable amount. And I'm going to aim for kind of that lavender color. I'm going to try a little bit of the garnet color here. Oh dear, way too much. Don't need anywhere near that much paint, but it just sort of squirted out, so that's that. So we're going to start with a little bit of both, and you know, it's interesting. You know, that's surprising. Just about the right color. Now, I don't want to get too involved in color mixing today. That's a problem for another day. But we'll try modifying this a little bit with some of the ultramarine blue to give it just a, and I always like to mix small amounts. Don't mix too much. Just, okay, well that's just about the color. So a little bit on the blue side. This is a faded blue. But if we mix this together, we will get some of those. We'll mix a little bit more of the blue, a little bit more of the maroon color. Okay, that's a little, all right, that's not too bad. Maybe a little bit more of the maroonish shade. Oh yeah, okay, oh, awesome. All right, so we've got a light shade a value and a darker value mixed here. Okay, now I'm going to really work small because I want to get at least 3 ways of painting on here. So I've chosen a filbert. Filbert is the one that has a rounded, not completely round, it's sort of like a U shape, and this brush is probably about a number 4, it's a number 8. Okay, so number 8 filbert. So one of the ways you could do it is to totally ignore the fact that the hydrangea is made up of dozens of little florets here, and just paint it sort of almost like a mushroom shape. So we could just come in here using sort of an impressionist technique and begin daubing on. Now this would be more successful if we had a gold background, and this is a trick I picked up from a very good painter, local painter, Vincent Crotty, who always has a background color behind his painting. And what I've discovered is gold is just a wonderful color to put down there. So without getting too carried away here, I'm pressing down fairly hard, pressing down so that the white doesn't show through. And I'm making sort of a pom-pom shape here. And I like the fact, and I'm sort of giving it little, you know, kind of dabs. Now supposing we came in here behind and began putting in some dark, again, without a whole lot of worry about exactly the shape. So this is very much the way the Impressionists would have done this, and we know how beautiful their paintings are. By the way, we were really deprived, or at least as far as I can tell, of a fabulous show at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. They were supposed to have a Monet exhibit just before the pandemic hit, and I was really looking forward to it. Maybe, I haven't followed it very much. Maybe there'll be an opportunity to see it. Yeah, I really like the way this is coming out. This is so impressionistic, and I didn't bring down any green. That was unfortunate. I probably should have brought down some green. So let's make one side really dark over here. Oops, too blue, too blue. All right. All right, this is a darker side. And we could continue to go on with that. All right, so that's an impressionist way of painting it. All right, just a lot of fun. And we would fill in the whites areas, but we're not going to do that, worry about that now. All right, now let's take this one step further and say we're not even going to try to articulate each little part. You could also do a hydrangea like this. Here, I'm just, well, let's say this is the blue one because it's coming out blue. All right, so this one, I'm painting in solidly, covering up all the white, and putting in a variety of different shades and of the blue. All right, we're filling out, we're going for that edge that is bumpy. It's got a bumpy, irregular edge. All right, and we're trying to really cover up the white here. All right, now, how can we, the way we could make this look more like a hydrangea is to paint on top of that sort of background color and bring out some try to articulate the different parts of the flower. Let's put white on this side. Again, I'm sort of using a stroke, and the filbert is working beautifully to articulate what the flower might look like. All right, so there's another way of doing it. Now, a third way of doing it, which I'm not going to be able to demonstrate because it takes too long, but it's pretty much what I do with a watercolor. You say, okay, and a filbert would not work for this. You say here, because it's too much of a fuzzy-wuzzy brush, you say, okay, there is one petal, one floret. Here's another floret. Oh, listen to that cardinal. Isn't that wonderful to hear the cardinal? I think it's a cardinal. Okay, so in this one, it's just very similar to what I did with a watercolor. Individual petals, much more closely aligned to exactly what the flower looks like. So here, this is a much slower process, and again, this is absolutely the wrong kind of brush for it, but it's the brush I brought downstairs, so into the garden, so we're going to use it. And I'm beginning to, now another thing that would have been handy would to have a green, but instead of green, we're going to use this gray. Oops, that's white. I'm going to take the gray, and I'm going to mix some of the gray with the blue, I think. I get a dark blue. It's going to take a lot more blue than that to overcome the gray. The gray is too dominant here. It's still looking gray. So we're going to take the blue and we're going to add a little bit of the gray to the blue. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to change brushes and to a smaller brush. And using that dark bluish gray, I could go in between these little petal shapes and fill in the white. Here again, if you had a gold background, it would be such a help. People forget that it's only recently that we've begun painting on white canvas, and that was a result of I believe, my understanding, of the abstract expressionists who wanted to paint on a white canvas, a very modern white canvas. In the earlier period, the canvas was not as bleached. The cotton or the linen background or a board, when the people painted on boards, wasn't bleached pure white. So they were painting on kind of an ochre colored canvas. And if you look carefully, go up very carefully to some of the 19th century paintings, landscapes particularly, you can see the canvas peeking through, and it's not white. So Vincent Crotty's idea that you paint on a colored canvas, it has a long, long tradition. In fact, it's a much more, it's truer to how paintings were done in the past. All right, now, if we were working with a better color here and not this rather unattractive gray, I think we would have a better idea of how this would work. I'm just going to see if I can't complete this here. Let's see, do a little bit more. All right, doesn't look very much like a hydrangea. It really doesn't. But supposing we came in, added a little bit more zap here. Yeah, this is definitely something that would need an awful lot of work to even be plausible. But what we're trying to do here is demonstrate yet one more way of doing a hydrangea. Let's see if we can find another way. Supposing we got let's be very modern. Let's say, okay, hydrangea. And besides, we're going to use up the rest of the paint. Okay, I love my pink hydrangea here. I'm going to be very expressive about what a hydrangea looks like. And I'm just dabbing away. Dab, 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 using up that paint. And I'm kind of I'm still doing dabs to try to get across the sense of the flower. I'm not just making a circle. All right, let's give it a blue edge. Yeah, let's go blue up here. Okay, blue up here. All right, let's get a more blue. All right, and let's get really, really maroon down here. Okay, let's see. Now, actually from a distance, that's not a bad hydrangea. That's pretty good. What do you think, Robert? My husband,
It looks
Robert.
very good, yes.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad
It's one of the best, yes.
Yeah. So this one suffers from the fact that I didn't have 1 or 2 hours to work on it. In order to articulate a hydrangea this way, you really have to spend a lot of time at it. I love this one. If I had brought my green down, and we had some green leaves around this, in fact, I may go upstairs to my studio and add some green around these, and I think you'll see when you look at them, not this one, this is really kind of like it doesn't work, but I think these three would really begin to kind of get the idea of a hydrangea across. Now we have to remember, this is an opaque media. This is oil paint, not translucent media like the watercolor. So you get a very much more vibrant look. I really like that one. I think that one really just absolutely aces the hydrangea feeling. So I think we'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Robert, my husband, who is the videographer, and Tom Pilla at Milton Access TV, who helps me with the editing. And next week we'll take on another topic, something else in the garden, and it will be a surprise. Thank you for watching. Hi. Yesterday out in the garden I painted 4 different versions of a hydrangea, and I brought it upstairs to my studio, and I said I was going to put some leaves in it behind the purple hydrangeas. And I got so involved in the painting, and I love what happened. This is where we ended up, and I'm going to explain now what I did and why. First I chose some colors, and one of my 2 favorite colors for this type of problem, this is a chartreuse yellow. It's basically a greenish color. We can see here, some might even call it an olive green. And then my go-to color that solves just about everything in landscapes is called sap green. And sap green is wonderful in watercolor as well as in oil. It's sort of like the green that's in deep, deep shadow. So if you start with a yellow green, you want to come in really here? Unfortunately, the audio kicked off, so I'm just going to try to relate what I was doing. And as I was saying, I mixed the sap green with, not the sap green, the yellow green with some white and a little bit of yellow. And you can see those light areas around as background. That was the background behind the hydrangeas. And remember, I'm working with the 3 studies of the hydrangeas that I did. Then I dip into the sap green, which is that darker one, and begin making the leaf. Here's the outline of the leaf, and so on. So we're looking now at this little square painting, and I did the outline around the hydrangeas, which helps to make them pop right out. And then I figured, well, why not put in a little far away, vague hydrangea. So with white and the rose color, I kind of scrubbed that in a little bit, very brushy kind of a stroke, but it brings the color back up in that area. Then the last step was to cut off the bad hydrangea. You remember that from last week. That one didn't work. That was a really disaster. So we cut that off, and we end up with quite a pretty little painting. Now, it has a couple of mistakes, what I call mistakes. One is that these 3 leaves form a circle, 1, 2, 3, forming a circle, which is too similar to the shape of the hydrangea. So that has to be cut away and manipulated. Then there's another error, compositional error. This green leaf lines up with the other green leaf, as we're demonstrating here with a paintbrush, and that creates a strong diagonal, which also needs to be eliminated. So in the final version, which hopefully we'll see in a minute, those mistakes were corrected. Okay, Beth Neville for Art and Life, thank you for watching.